and welcome back to the Movies Made Us Do It. How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm all right, yeah. Looking forward to talking about the Maltese Falcon from 1941. This was one of your picks.
Yep.
A favorite of yours, right?
Yeah.
Because I know this has been in the list a few times before. Yeah. We've discussed potentially doing this one. So, when did you first see this movie? How did you come across it?
I was little with my granddad.
Yeah, same.
It's one of those.
It's one of those. It is a granddad movie.
Yeah, it does feel very much like a granddad movie. Yeah, all the sort of, as we said before, basically all the old westerns, all the old sort of film noirs. I kind of saw with my granddad.
Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of science fiction with my granddad, like Them. I previously said, but yeah, Maltese Falcon, one of those. Part of my granddad's extensive back room of recorded black tapes that were meticulously labeled. You know how your granddad always had really neat handwriting, and you're like, wow, it's so neat. But yeah, he had like a wall of just black, like black tapes that he'd got labels on for every movie. I don't know where he got all these from, but yeah.
I had an uncle like that, but he had you get those plastic covers that look like books.
I used to love those. He
had shelves and shelves of those.
Cool.
And inside we're all just not blank tapes but recorded tapes.
Yeah.
With
That's great.
Brilliant. I love those things.
Yeah, me too. I love any tacky 80s 90s shit like that. It's great.
Yeah. And this is one of those rare occasions where I've actually read the book as well.
Interesting. Okay, because I haven't read the book.
It's been a long time, but
I know that the book is I know the book is responsible for the flub in this movie. When he tells them they've got till 5, and then later on he's like, I wasn't expecting you till like 5:25, and it's like, yeah, I think it's because in the book apparently it says 5:30. I guess they just didn't kind of put that over in the script properly, so he tells them one time, and then later on he's like, I wasn't expecting you for like 25 minutes late. But I really love this movie. I haven't seen it for years.
No, it's been a while since I've seen it, I must admit.
So rewatching it was really fun. Should we just get into it?
Yeah, sure.
So, as we open, as most films do from the 40s, and it's one of those things I was thinking about while watching this. I watch a lot of classic horror, and it's very much the same, and science fiction, but it's all very much the same. When you see a modern film, and you're like, oh, it's an hour and 40 minutes, you're like, well, it's an hour and 15, and then there's 15 minutes of or like 10 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
But old films is like start, end. It's like, no, it literally is that long. That's how long the movie is. Like, there's no messing around.
Music and some flashes of stuff, and that's it.
You get your title card, a musical sting, and straight in. But yeah, we're introduced to Private Eye, Sam Spade. And this movie, I was thinking while rewatching this, I was like, God, this film, it would be so easy for this character to come across like a smug asshole.
Well, he kind of is, though.
But no, he is. But Humphrey Bogart, he's got such a charm about him.
Yep.
That it's not annoying.
Yeah.
Because I think he could have come across as smug and arrogant and just unlikable. The wrong actor could have ruined this entire thing.
The funny thing is this is the third version.
I'm not aware of the other versions, so
yeah. So there's a 31 version which is called the Maltese Falcon, and then there's a 36 version, I think, which is called the Satan Met a Lady.
That's an amazing title for a film.
That's a comedy, that is, and that had Betty Davis in it. She said it was one of the worst movies she ever made. She hated it.
Well, I was going to say, I think the problem is that this is regarded as one of the greatest films ever. Yeah. So I think it kind of, every other version that came before it has been...
The 31 version, I've not I've not seen it, but I've seen clips.
Yeah.
And the guy playing, I can't remember who it is that's playing him Sam in that one. He comes across as really smarmy.
Yeah.
There's like whole bits where he's like his secretary walks away and he sort of holds her hand and grabs her, sort of thing, while she's moving away, and he sort of like gives her this grin, and it's like, ooh, that's just really. He doesn't have anywhere near the charm that Humphrey Bogart.
Well,
does.
it's funny you say that, because Sam has the charm. Miles is basically that character in this movie.
Yes.
Like, Miles is like, immediately as soon as he sees her, he's like, oh, I'll look after you.
Yeah,
oh, I'll see you. Don't worry. Like, I won't miss you in the crowd.
Out of the head sort of
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, oh my
makes
God.
That face.
You would be Me Too'd in a fucking heartbeat in 2024, my friend.
Absolutely. One thing I do know about there's two things I know about the 1331 version. One is that it's pre-Hays Code.
Yeah.
So a lot of the sort of things that are only sort of hinted at in this, like
Happen.
the fact
Yeah.
that, the fact that the big guy is gay and, the little bloke is his lover.
Yeah.
That's kind of more mentioned in that version.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's implied in this.
Yeah,
you can read between the lines.
Spade keeps calling him a gunster. He calls him a boy, but the guy's like 40.
He does say your boyfriend at one point.
Yeah, he calls him. Yeah, and he calls him a gunsel, which apparently is a sort of slang for a sort of a young boy kept by an older man. Basically.
Oh, is it? I didn't know what that meant, actually. So I'm glad you said that.
I think apparently it means little goose in Yiddish.
Okay.
But yeah, it's one of those sort of. So although it's in this version, I think it's way more prominent in.
Yeah, it's not out and out here.
Yeah, but, and there's a scene, where much later, where the money goes. He gives the money back to what's his name? Sidney Greenstreet's character. Gutman. Yeah. He gives the money back to Gutman, and Gutman says, "Oh, there's $1,000 missing here," and he palms it.
Yeah.
In the 30s one and in the book, he first goes and basically strip searches Bridget.
Right.
In the kitchen,
mm-hmm.
which of course they completely cut out in this because it's the Hays Code came along. Was like, no, you can't mention that. Can't mention.
Pre-code movies are fucking interesting.
Yeah, there's some really good.
I mean, if you ever go back and watch the original, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde,
yes,
movie, that pre-code one is violent as fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, holy shit! You watch it and you're like, oh yeah, of course I forgot about the code, because you watch older movies and you're like, oh yeah, they're going to be more tame, and then you see stuff like that, you're like, oh my god, like actually pre-code, pre-code they did not fuck around.
And also the thing about a lot of the pre-code ones is that they didn't really have any safety stuff, so people got hurt, killed really badly all the time. Animals got killed, and
they were literally like, yeah, jump on that fucking train. Jump wagon to wagon. Just do it.
There's a full moving train there. Just
jump on it, man. It'll be cool. Don't worry.
Yeah, so
you're getting paid $20.
Yeah.
Jump on that train.
So yeah, as I said, I've only seen like clips of it. But the other thing also which I like about the only thing that I like is that I've seen so far of the 31 version is that Dwight Frey plays the Wilmer Cook part in that.
Oh, good old Fritz.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like, oh, Dwight Frey. I didn't realise he was in this. Cool. But yeah, as I said, I've only seen clips of that one, so I've not actually seen it. But yeah, definitely the Sam Spade in that one that I've seen comes is way more smarmy.
Yeah, I think his Bogart, like he's such a good actor. He's got that weird smile, man.
Yes, that's exactly it. That weird little smile he gives, just sort of.
And on anyone else, it would have been smarmy and smug, and you just think, oh.
And I'm sure there will be people that find that is the case. But
well, he is a know-it-all in the movie. He is like a mastermind. It's one of those interesting things where, in most films, people have got flaws. People have got, like, he's almost that, like, know-it-all. Mm-hmm. He gets everything right. He's got everything. He knows every situation. He's planned everything out to a T.
But he's also not really a terribly nice guy. I mean, he's
not a very nice guy.
Sleeping with his partner's wife.
Yeah.
When I mean, we'll get, we do get to it, but when his partner is killed, he doesn't really give a fuck.
No, he doesn't care.
He clearly doesn't really like him, so doesn't really matter. It's just like, oh well, those are the breaks.
He was a smarmy prick anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now I don't have competition for Miss Wonderly.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's. So anyway, we're introduced to Sam, and his partner Miles, who are approached by Miss Wonderly. And she's asking for them to follow Floyd Thursby, who she says ran off with her younger sister. And she says, she's like frightfully young. I'm really worried that he's pressuring her into stuff and he's gonna force her to be with him. She wants to. I want her back, basically.
Basically
and
says that her parents are away in Europe, I think she says.
Yeah, something like that.
Relatively soon, so she wants to get her home before they come back. So
yeah.
She hasn't worried. She hasn't told them. She doesn't want to worry them.
And so begins Sam Spade's amazing money making. He does nothing for free.
Yep.
It's all about the money, and I love how often in this movie he's just like, "Give me money now." It's like, how much money have you got? Give me the money.
And it's also like later on with
everyone.
Her with
Oh yeah, when he's like, "What have you got on you?" And she's like, 100. She's like, "Yeah, I'll have all that."
She's got $500.
Oh, that's right, 500. She gives him 100, and he's like, "That's not enough."
And he's like, "No." He's like, and she gives him 400. And no, he says, "Can't I at least keep some to feed myself?" And that he says, "Well, don't you have any jewelry you can hawk?"
Yeah, he's like, "You'll have to hawk it."
You prick.
Asshole. So yeah, they obviously accept this assignment. I think Sam accepts it for the money. Miles may have other ideas. I think he's definitely interested in Miss Wonderly. And of course the secretary even says to Sam before he meets her, "Oh, you will want to meet her. Like, she's hot."
Yeah. Effie's one of my favorite characters.
She's great. Yeah.
She's so cool. She's clearly a sort of what they call a dame with moxie, as they say. And I love that there's a scene a little bit later because what I love is you keep seeing Sam make his smokes.
Yeah.
He's got that little pouch that he does one-handed, and and then you see she comes in at one point when he's about to make it, and she takes it off of him and she sits on his desk, and she makes this like smoke for him. And I love the way she's got the bag, the thing in one hand and the bag in the other. She does the same thing. She pulls the drawstring with her teeth. And she literally takes the thing and she gives it to him to lick and then rolls it and gives it to him. It's like, for some reason that whole scene really tickled me. It's just a brilliantly little thing.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So as I said, Miles is just perving after her and is clearly up for it. The money's there and it's a hot woman. He's down. Sam is going along for the money, but he is pretty clear that like she's clearly not as innocent as she's making out. Like, clearly she's up to something, but the money's good. So,
and Archer literally says, you may have saw her first, but I spoke first. Like, I'm in there.
Yeah. Dibs, my friend. So one
of the things is she says, he says, Sam says, "Oh, we'll have one of our men follow him." And Archer immediately says, "Oh, I'll do it." And Sam just sort of looks at, gives him that sideways glance, like, "Okay, right, it's like that, is it?" sort of thing. Yeah.
So anyway, later the same evening, we have the detective who basically tells Spade that his partner has been shot and killed. I think he gets the call first, doesn't he? And then he informs Spade. He says, he's been shot and killed whilst tailing Thursby. So, immediately we're like, well, something's clearly going on here. And I guess the implication is that maybe Thursby killed Archer. But later on, the two officers turn up to Spade's apartment, and I love how cool Spade is here. He's just amazing. Whenever these two detectives are trying to get information out of him,
Yeah.
Like he knows what's going on, and he's just having none of it. They basically come in and they're like, we want to ask you some questions. We want to know where you were over the last few hours. Where were you at the time of the murder, and things like this. And Spade obviously already knows what this meeting is for, but he just plays it so goddamn cool the whole time.
I love how the lieutenant, he's a real prick.
Oh, yeah.
He just hates him.
Yeah, you can tell there's history there. Yeah.
He totally wants to screw him for it.
But he can't. I love the bit when he's like, how did I murder him again? I forgot.
Yeah.
It's like, tell me, how did I murder him? I forgot. And then he's like, oh, well, I was a bit worried before, but now I know what it's really about. That's fine, But yeah, he plays it really cool. And the officers say that Thursby was also killed. And so they suspect that Spade now is a suspect in killing Thursby, because Thursby most likely killed Archer. So it looks like Thursby killed Archer, and then Spade killed Thursby in revenge.
Yeah.
But of course they've got no evidence. So
the gun that was found at the Archer.
It was a 44, wasn't it?
It's a Webley Fosbury, which is a revolver, an automatic revolver, which is
fancy.
Which I love. Yeah, it was one of those weird sort of transition guns between revolvers and automatics.
Yeah.
And it's the same gun that's used by Zed in Zardoz.
Oh yes. Another film we've covered before.
Yeah.
I love Zardoz. I have no shame in my love of Zardoz.
Absolutely not. I know it's like it's an almost, I wouldn't say universally hated, but it's a movie that really winds people up.
Yeah, it does. It winds people right up. I love Zardoz.
I love it.
Anyway,
it's a really cool little gun. Anyway,
yes, very cool. So yeah, they basically they kind of admit / accept that they have no evidence, but they're like, well, we are investigating this. And like you said, the asshole big detective, he makes it pretty clear. He's like, if I can fucking pin this on you, I will pin this on you.
He totally wants to take you down for it. That's his whole motivation.
Yeah. So the next day, we meet Archer's wife, because she comes to visit Spade, and it's pretty clear they've been having the affair, as you said. And she asks if he killed Miles so that they could be together.
Yep.
And Spade's just like, don't be ridiculous, basically.
He's like, I like you, but not that bloody much.
Yeah, and then he's like, Effie, get rid of all of Archer's stuff. Just clear it out.
Yeah,
we're done here.
He says, scrape off his get the sign guy out, scrape off his name.
I think
Sam Spade on the door.
I think the next time he comes to the office, the guy is already changing the name. Like,
he's already halfway through painting it.
It's just like, okay, done. He's gone.
And you get that really cool. There's a really cool shot as well of the sort of this Spade and Archer window on the sort of shadow on the floor, which is really cool.
I really love the miniature set they've got out that window.
Yes,
it looks incredible with all the light up signs and stuff.
Yeah,
it's a really cool backdrop for that office.
We should mention, actually, this is John Huston's first directing job.
Yes, yeah, and done a wonderful job. I mean, by 41, obviously, film had come a long way.
Yeah.
But some of the shots in this are really well executed for the time.
One of my favourite is one I think it's in Bridget's room, I think, in her apartment, and it's that Sam's talking to her, and it's they're mentioning the guy that's following him, Cook.
Yeah,
and he says he's out there on the street, and you get that shot where he leans into her, and the camera, goes across his head, across her, out the window.
It's amazing.
to where the guy stood, and it's like that is a really fucking
yeah, and
cool.
then it backs off as well when he sees
Yeah.
him and backs away from her. I also really love when he gets the call just now. It's focused purely on the phone.
Yeah.
The whole phone call.
It's a lot of really cool.
There is, and the tracking shot when he's being followed down the street.
Yep.
It's little things like that. You're like, wow, for 41,
Well,
this is.
And I love the fact that Sidney Greenstreet's character Gutman, he's basically almost always filmed low. He's always filmed so basically so that his girth can be seen his full girth can be seen in the shots.
Yeah, I
So
mean, if anyone
much more physically imposing.
If anyone was born to play the
this
Penguin,
was his first movie as
I
well.
know he's so good in this.
He was 61, 62, I think, and he'd been a stage actor for years.
Yeah,
But
well,
this was
most
his-
people had. Most
yeah,
actors
this was
had.
his first movie. I think his movie career only lasted like I think 10 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, this was still during the period where stage acting was what it was all about. I mean, film acting was looked down upon by most actors.
Yeah. I think he did. What was it? I think he did 3 films with Bogart, and I think he did 9 films with Peter Lorre.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like wow.
Yeah, if anyone was born to play the Penguin,
yeah, he'd have made
a great Penguin. But yeah, so anyway, he goes to where does he go now? He goes to the new address, doesn't he? Because he had the note from his client, and he discovers that it's Bridget.
Yep.
And he also finds out, not really to his surprise, she never had a sister. Yeah. And Thursby was actually her partner, acquaintance, and he basically betrayed her.
Yep.
I can't remember if this is I think it might be a little later where we get the conversation where he's like, nothing you told me was the truth, and she has that like great monologue where she's like, God, I don't even know what's the truth anymore. I lie so much. Yeah. She's like, I just lie so often, I don't even know what the truth is.
Mary Astor does this amazing job of I love it when she's like she'll be talking to him and she'll play all innocent and all sweet and all that, and then of course he'll say something like, well, I don't believe that, and she'll immediately change and be like all coy and like all sort of hurt and sort of thing, and then immediately she'll change to completely again, and she'll be all like, oh, femme fatale, all sort of, oh no, all knowing and sort of, arched eyebrows.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It's so good.
So I think we do see here at some point, Spade getting followed. And I love a little later, I love when he loses the guy by going into the building, pressing all the buttons, and then walking out the back.
Goes out the back.
Right. But anyway, later that day, Spade is visited by Cairo.
Yep.
Who this is one of my favorite interactions in the movie. This whole scene is fantastic.
Yep.
So Cairo turns up.
I love it. He sends her a card which smells of gardenias.
Yes.
And he's so dapper. He's completely sort of suited and booted, and he's got the cane and everything.
The entire movie.
Yeah.
And he turns up and is very. This is where he first learns about the figurine, right?
Yeah.
Because Cairo tells him that they're after this black bird figurine. It's recently arrived, and he's asking him if he knows anything about it. And Spade's like, no, I don't know anything about it. And he says, well, look, I will give you £5,000. Well, I think he said he'll give $5,000 dollars. $5,000 to any private eye that can retrieve it.
Yeah.
And Spade starts to play along a little. He then gets a phone call, and as he gets the phone call, I think it's from his secretary again, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Cairo pulls the gun.
Yeah.
And he looks up, and he's got the gun pointed at him, and he says, he declares that he's going to search the office. And of course, Spade's like, puts his hands up, and he's like, oh, of course, no worries. You go knock yourself out, my friend.
Yeah.
And as soon as he goes to search him, Spade knocks it out of his hand and knocks him unconscious.
What I love though is he turns around and grabs the hand with the gun in, and he hits him while holding his hand, and it looks like he does the stop hitting yourself thing. It looks like he hits him with his own fist. The gun drops, and then he hits him again. It's such a cool little shot, and I can't quite figure out whether he hits him with his fist or his own. I'm not sure which one it is. I kept rewinding the sort of thing, to see whether I could quite, and I couldn't quite make out whether it was him or his own fist or his fist that he hit him with. But it's such a cool shot of him going. He just quickly strikes him and then almost smiles at him and then hits him again.
Yeah. It's a great shot. And while unconscious, he starts going through Cairo's pockets. And Cairo is apparently a man who holds every form of identification that you could ever need on this person.
And every form of currency.
And every form of currency.
Sorts of stuff going on now, like Chinese money and...
Yeah. Yeah, well, you get the impression he obviously travels a lot.
Yeah.
And probably hasn't spent very long in the country at this point. Or at least has recently traveled other places because he's got cash on him for other countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, he starts searching him. And then I think Bridget calls. Is that right?
I can't remember which.
Because she calls to offer sympathy, doesn't she, for Miles?
Okay, I can't remember which one it is. I know he calls for some reason. I can't remember what it is he calls for. I thought he called out.
Oh, maybe he calls. No, maybe you're right. Maybe he calls. You might be right. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But yeah, he basically one way or another he starts to suspect there's a connection between Bridget and Cairo. And he mentions to her that Cairo's contacted him, and she basically gets a little nervous about it, and she says, like, I need to meet with Cairo. I need to meet with him, and basically asks him to arrange a meeting. But then Cairo wakes up and pulls the gun back on him, and they go through the same thing again. And I just love that it's this, like, the exact same thing. He's like, okay, fine, go for it. And you almost get the impression that you probably knocked him out again. You know?
Oh no, I think he just let him do it.
Or maybe just let him.
He's got nothing to hide.
No, he's got nothing to hide.
He's got the thing. He's got all the information he needs out of him.
Yeah.
That he can anyway at this point. You know, he's got the sort of measure of him, so he just lets him do it because there's nothing for him to find, is there?
No, that's true. But yeah, and of course later they do meet, and obviously Spade doesn't quite understand what they're talking about at first because they're obviously some personal terminology that they, the things they're talking about. He's like, I don't really understand what's going on. But ultimately, Cairo is willing to pay for the figurine. Bridget says, like, hey, I've got it, but I don't. Oh no, you get the great line as well where he's like, well, I can pay, but not right now. And Spade's like, no, I can attest to that because he only had like a couple of hundred on him when I searched him this morning. And Bridget says, well, look, I don't have the figurine with me, but I can get it for you. They talk about G, don't they? I think they call him G at first. Gutman?
Yes.
They just talk
about.
I
think the Fat Man's mentioned, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Fat Man. Yes, sorry. Yes, yeah. And they're clearly worried about the Fat Man. And they talk about stuff that happened overseas and all of that stuff.
Yeah, because they mentioned being in Hong Kong. They've come from Hong Kong, and then they basically that she doesn't sort of exactly say, but she says about that the reason she hasn't got the figurine is because it's not actually in the country yet.
No. But it will be in a couple of days, or it is a couple of days, I think she says.
Yeah,
that she'll be able to get it. So you get some back and forth between Bridget and Cairo. Cairo says basically, you're just you use your body to get what you want, basically. And they start to argue, at which point there's a knock at the door, which kind of rattles everyone. I'm pretty sure Spade knows it's the police.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, oh, these fucks again.
Yeah, well,
I
imagine he certainly suspects it's the cops.
Yeah, yeah. So Spade goes out to greet them at the door, and they're like, can we come in? He's like, no. No, you can't.
There's a bit of a scuffle first, isn't there, between him
in the yes. Well, that's what breaks it up, is the knock at the door, isn't it?
Cairo. Yeah, he probably slaps him, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, and he says like, stop it, and he's like, stop it, and Spade's like, I'll slap you and you'll like it. Just slaps him again.
Yeah.
But yeah, he answers.
He says to Bridget he gives the gun to Bridget and tells her to cover him, basically.
Yeah, he doesn't have much luck with that gun.
No,
one has luck with the guns in this movie, by the way.
No, one of the funny things I love about that as well is the fact that on the cover, on the poster, one of the taglines is, "A story as explosive as his blazing automatics." I don't think he actually fires a single gun in this, does he?
Automatics are in the movie.
Yes.
But I don't think they're fired.
No.
So, yeah. It's good marketing.
Not that we see, anyway.
Not on screen. But anyway, he answers the door to the police. They ask if they can come in, and he's like, "No, you're not coming in." And they're like, "Well, what have you got to hide?" He's like, "Oh, nothing, but you're not coming in." And they're pressing him. They still don't have any evidence. They kind of continue the back and forth until Cairo starts screaming for help.
Yeah.
And I love when the guy's like, we're going in, and obviously Spade's like, I guess you are.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I guess you are going in. There's I can't stop that now. So of course they come in, and you see Cairo's like covered in blood. He's been hit in the face with her shoe, I think.
I don't remember.
Well, because he gives her heel back afterwards. And he's got like this mark on his head, so I think she smacked him with the heel of her shoe, which is what caused the bleeding. The officers are just like, what the hell's going on? Cairo gives this story that he'd basically been kidnapped by the two, and he was being held hostage there.
Yeah, he basically says that they're going to kill him.
Yeah.
They're keeping against the will, and they're going to kill him.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, is this true? And then Spade just spins this story. And it's full of half-truths, which is why I think, it's really clever. He's like using half-truths.
The way he sort of spins it implicates Cairo in all the stuff. And immediately Cairo's like, oh, well, maybe they didn't, they weren't going to kill me.
Well, yeah, because he's like, I'm going to report you for assault. And he's like, well, okay. And then we'll report about the gun and we'll see what happens, won't we?
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that didn't happen. Initially they're like, everyone get their hats. You're all coming with us. But he manages to talk them around. They still clearly don't believe Spade.
No.
But they will go with it for now. You get the impression, especially the bigger detective who clearly hates Spade.
Yeah,
he is just waiting for solid evidence. Like he clearly, I assume there is history. I don't know if there is in the book. Is there history between these two in the book, or?
I don't remember,
because it feels personal.
I mean, the other guys, he certainly,
yes.
The way he talks to him, they certainly have history, and I presume that the other guy probably does as well.
Yeah,
they probably came to some sort of
blows or something.
And you can clearly just want to hit him anyway. Later on, he does.
Yeah.
Like push him.
Yes. Yeah. He does. He gets punched.
Yeah.
Spade gets punched by him.
And Cairo basically at this point does a run. He tries to get out, doesn't he?
Well, first of all, he says they were play acting, and then the detective's like, "You're bleeding profusely from your forehead," and he's like, "Oh yeah, we were play acting, and I fell over and hit my head."
Yeah, I stumbled and fell.
Okay. But yeah, they decide they're going to take Cairo down for some questioning, don't they? They're like, we're going to take Cairo in for questioning. and then Spade sends Bridget to stay with Effie, I think.
Yep.
Because this is where he like he speaks to Effie, and he's like, could you put her up? Would that be all right? And she's like,
well, he says, what do you think of her? And she says, I think she's I think she's okay, basically. And he's like, is that for something? He says, yeah, I think she's all right. He says, really, can you look after her? And she's like, I guess. She's like clearly not happy about it, but
no,
sure,
no.
not.
But yeah. So yes. I think the next day Spade heads to the hotel, doesn't he? And he's got the guy in the hotel who's been following him. The guy who followed him down the street. He's in the lobby.
Yeah. He's sat there and reading the newspaper. And he basically sits next to him. Sort of, I can't remember what he asks him. He asks him something, and he's like, "But go away, you're bothering me," sort of thing.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, you can't just keep following me. This is not gonna, I know what you're doing, and you're not. I think it was more just a case of like, you think you're being sneaky, but I know exactly what you're doing. I see you." And then I think he talks to the hotel manager, doesn't he?
No, I think it's hotel security.
It's security, and he's like, "Hey, I've got a question for you. Do you keep like gun-toting lunatics in your lobby on purpose? Like, why is this guy here?" And he basically gets booted out.
Yeah, he basically goes over to him and kind of just makes him look stupid. And I think
because he was trying to be sneaky, Spade is as public as possible about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Look at this gun-toting lunatic in your lobby. Do you always have gun-toting idiots here?" And of course, security's like, "What are you up to?" And he leaves, but he does threaten him on his way out. He's like, "I will kill both of you," I think he says.
Yep, he's got he really does have the eye swivel in a number of scenes with him.
Yeah. He looks like a psychopath. This guy.
Yeah, Elisha Cook Jr. He was in a lot of movies. He was in one of the episodes of Star Trek.
Yes. Yeah. But he really has the look of a psychopath here. But anyway, Cairo does eventually show up, saying that he was basically held all night by the police, so he's not in the best of moods.
His hat's all wonky.
Yeah. Wilmer Cook, that's the name of the guy who's been following him. Wilmer. I was trying to think of the name. It's written here. But yeah, he does say that, before Wilmer goes, he does say, your boss is going to have to deal with me at some point. We're going to get there. He gets a call then later from Gutman, who says he wants to meet him. And so, obviously he heads there. I do feel like I'm missing bits of this story, by the way. I do apologize. I'm reading through the synopsis and I'm like, I feel like I've missed something here, but we'll come to it, I'm sure, as we always do, out of order. So he meets with Gutman, who, as we said, he's amazing, especially considering this is his first off-stage performance. Because you tend to see those stage performers really go over the top in their first screen performance, especially in early films. And obviously this is not early, but early enough. And I think he's tremendous in this role.
He's just got these little tics and things. He's got that little giggle, that's a weird little laugh he has. I just
love his little sayings, and the things he comes out with are just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, he's a huge dude. He's massive.
Massive. I think they had to especially get his wardrobe and stuff done for him because he was so huge.
Yeah.
And I think they had to reinforce the chair and everything because he was such a massive dude.
Wow. So he basically says, "Look, I think it's like $5,000, isn't it, at this point?
Yep.
And it goes up to 10 later.
Yeah.
Which is a ludicrous sum of money.
Uh-huh.
He's like, I will give you $5,000 to get the bird for me, basically. And Spade obviously immediately is like, well, I can get it for you. I know where it is, But he wants more information about it. He's like, well, I know where it is. I can get it, but what is it exactly? And of course, he's spun this story about how it's a gift from the island of Malta, and wasn't it the King of Spain or something? And it was lost.
Supposed to be a gift for the King of Spain. Yeah,
that's right.
It got basically intercepted by pirates, and then it disappeared.
Yeah, and that it's covered in jewels, but now has this like black paint or something over
black enamel on it.
Yeah, that's concealing the gems underneath, and no one's ever just scratched that away. But it's basically, I guess it's just made of, like, the outside is just made of jewels, and then it's painted so that people think it's just painted stone or something.
Yeah, it basically it's been enameled so that it basically looks like lead.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's actually based, from what I remember of it's based on I wrote it down somewhere, the Knaphausen Hawk from 1697, which is
so it's an actual thing that it's based on.
Well, the thing it's based on is a drinking vessel. And if you sort of Google it, I'm not sure how the hell you drink out of it.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah,
massive bird which is just covered in jewels.
I've seen many beer tankards.
Yeah,
they're like you can't drink out of that. I mean, it looks amazing, but there's no drinking out of that. That's ludicrous.
I think it's owned by the is it the Duke of Devonshire now at the moment? It's in chat. It's in chat.
Really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, the actual Maltese Falcon itself is all bollocks.
Yeah. Oh, no, of course. No.
Completely made up.
Yeah, obviously.
But it's based on that. So.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So Gutman says he found out about it like 17 years ago. He's been looking for it ever since then. And at one point it was in the hands of a Russian general, and they basically had these 3 agents, one of which is Cairo, the other was Thursby, and the other's Bridget, right?
Yeah.
To go and get it. So this Russian general's been doing that. And
supposedly the general has got the bird, but didn't know what it was worth. Didn't know what it actually is.
Yeah. Now, as he's spinning this tale, Spade starts to get dizzy. That's getting bird vision. We
have missed something out here.
I was thinking
he makes 2 visits to Gutman. He goes to see him first, and then there's a brief talk about it, and then he goes. I can't remember exactly what happens, but he goes off.
I think he might go to.
Then he comes back.
I think he goes back to Bridget.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Right.
Because I think that's when he kind of questions her more, and that's when she does the like, oh my goodness, and she leans back over the chair, and he goes to kiss her, and then sees Fucko outside staring. Yes. I think that's the bit, and then he goes back.
Yeah, and then he gets the.
See, it was bugging me as I was reading through this. I was like, I know I've missed a scene here because I remember there was something, and I think it is. I think it's the meeting with Bridget in between.
Well, he's basically just sort of eking more out of her, isn't he? He's just
He knows she's full of shit. He's just
each time she's very good at not giving the full story. That's the thing. She's almost as good as keeping things back as he is at getting them out of her.
They're both master manipulators.
Yeah,
in their own way. Yeah.
And the thing is that he's clearly taken with her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's not for his part. It's not just there is an element that he actually does genuinely like her.
I think he's attracted to her.
Yeah.
But I think he knows she's deceptive and is trouble. Like he's fully aware. I think he's like, well, if I could sleep with her, I might, but I'm not going to trust her. I'm not going to trust a word she says.
I'm going to make sure all the pointy things are hidden.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I thought in this movie, actually. It's like he's so smart about all of this stuff, but he always accepts the drinks from Gutman, and I'm like, this is just,
Yeah. That's actually one of the things is that Spade, I don't know whether it says it in the book, but he basically puts like a half a bottle of whiskey away a day.
Yeah. He's clearly got a drinking
he
habit.
drinks an awful lot. And I think that was another thing, not quite to do with the Hays Code, but more or less, it was to do with the sort of head of the studio, didn't want smoking and he didn't want the drinking.
Right.
And basically, I think it was Huston said, look, he has to do the drinking, otherwise it's just not the character.
I will say, I mean, I love a good whiskey.
Yeah.
I've drunk whiskey doing this show many a time.
Mm-hmm.
But Gutman pours a fucking pint of whiskey when he pours a whiskey. It's like, oh my God. Because it doesn't even make the comment. He's like, I like a man who never says when. Because that would seem to indicate that you might say too much while drunk, and it shows that you're confident and you're not lying, that you're happy to drink a pint of whiskey with me or whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I think that the thing with the smoking is they filmed.
He really needs a cigar thing to cut the ends of the cigar off, because they always look. Because I don't think you can just smoke it like that.
Apparently there was they filmed some stuff with when the heads saw the rushes and said, oh, there's too much smoke in that. So they filmed it, they refilmed one of the scenes and they took it back to him. And he said the whole atmosphere was completely different.
Mm.
It changed the sort of the whole atmosphere of the scene. So they basically, the head's just like, okay, fine. Tried to cut down on the smoking, but, I will, say that it's better with it. So,
yeah.
They kind of got away with it.
Apparently, Gutman's lighter, the table lighter, has become... It was a really rare thing, I think, even back then. There were very few of them made. And it's become this huge thing now, obviously because of this movie. It's become this huge cult thing, to where apparently there is at least one company now, allegedly, that exists solely to find and fix up these things to resell to collectors. Because it's one of those iconic props from this movie that everyone's like, oh my God, that lighter's incredible.
My grandparents had a table lighter.
Yeah, I think it's just a certain type. It's quite a fancy table lighter, isn't it?
It wasn't fancy, it was just a very cool thing.
Yeah, I think it's this one specifically, and I think because of this movie it's become an extremely sought after table lighter.
Yeah, well, look at the Falcons themselves are pretty sought after as well. I think there's only 3 left.
I must admit, it sounds really bad, but at the end of the movie, when they finally get their hands on the Falcon and you see it, I'm like, I that looks like something I could find at a car boot sale. I'll be honest with you. I don't know, the idea is that it's painted and really the jewels are underneath.
As they make it sound, is it? It's kind of sort of. It's quite a plain-looking object. I kind of like it though for its plainness.
Yeah, I do, but it doesn't even. The way it's cut and molded and shaped, it doesn't even look like there's jewels on it.
No,
it doesn't remotely look like it would have jewels on it.
Yeah,
it looks like stone, or resin.
I guess the enamel was just very well done.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, I think there were 8 made for the movie.
For the
2
movie.
of them were lead, and the rest were plaster.
And
I know one of them is in the Warner Brothers Museum film.
Right.
That's the one that's got a dent in it because.
Is that the one that's got the knife cuts in it from?
No, it's it might have the knife cuts in it, but it's the one that's got a dent in it from Humphrey Bogart dropping it on his foot.
That's an amazing piece.
And
of
I think
trivia.
one of the other ones that's still around is owned by Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, really?
Which apparently is in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I haven't seen that movie. So
no, I haven't seen it either. I've heard mixed to good things.
There was the stuff with Bruce Lee kind of put me off it, and I know that's really petty, but the stories I heard about the Bruce Lee stuff was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I want to deal with that. But that's neither here nor there. But the actual, I don't. It's a kind of cool, but it does look. It's nowhere near sort of as impressive as it sounds, is it?
No, not compared to what they've said. But yeah, it's it is what it is. It's an iconic prop as a result, obviously.
I think that one of the things that does make me laugh though is that, I'm guessing depending on who was holding the thing, because obviously the lead ones are only going to be actually heavy, and the plaster ones probably wouldn't weigh anywhere near as much. But sometimes when you see people holding the package and things, some people are holding it like it really is heavy as fuck, and other people like look like they're pretending that it's really heavy. You can see the difference.
Yeah. So anyway, as I said during this second conversation, he's spinning this yarn, and Spade starts to feel dizzy. And I think he does a reasonable job of acting drunk. He goes to get his hat and he goes to kind of leave.
Yeah, he gets up and he sort of stumbles a bit and keeps walking.
Yeah, and he kind of grabs his coat and his hat.
Yeah,
and
crushes his hat and
starts to stumble, and then of course Wilmer comes up behind him.
Yeah,
and kicks out his legs.
And gives him a really thorough kick in the face.
Yeah, I think from Wilmer's perspective, he probably asked for it by this point. I think Wilmer thoroughly hates him by now. Yeah. And then, of course, sometime later, Spade finally wakes up, and he.
You also see Cairo comes out of the bedroom as well, so you see them, three of them are obviously clearly at this point.
They're all in cahoots. Yes.
Yeah.
So Spade wakes up and heads to his office, and basically speaks to Effie. Says tells her about the story of the Maltese Falcon.
Also, I think we missed the money as well, because I think the money goes up. So he's.
Because he says, it's 10 grand, and he's like, 10 grand?
No, he says it's 25 for
25?
it now, and a further 25 when he gets it, I think is what
I thought at first he said it was 10, and he's like, well, that's double what you said before, and then he's like, well, actually, okay, 25 now, 25 later, because it's worth that much, and because they talk about how Spade has no idea of the value of this thing.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'll give you like basically 50 grand, which is a ludicrous amount of money for the period.
Yeah. But you see that Gutman is obsessed with this bloody statue.
Oh yeah, it's like his life's work to find.
Yeah, I mean it's supposed to be solid gold and jewels, so it's
it's worth all the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of get the thought that it is his obsession as well. Like even beyond the monetary value at this point, they are obsessed with finding this thing.
Full on.
It's like the quest for the Grail. Yeah. It's like they're gonna find it. So he tells Effie about the Maltese Falcon, and then we get the man comes stumbling in.
I think he finds out about the thing first. We find out about is it the Papillon? No, the Paloma, not the Papillon, the Paloma.
Oh, the fire at the Paloma.
Yeah, he's. I think he's. This is really bad. I can't remember how exactly it goes, but I think Bridget must have told him that it's coming on the Paloma, and he goes to see the Paloma, and when he gets there, it's on fire,
in flames, and he's like, "Oh, my friend's in there. I need to find my friend." And he's like, the policeman outside's like, "Oh no, they all got out, sir. They got out.
Everybody got out. It's fine."
And he's like, "Are you sure?" She's like, 5'4", and he starts kind of. I guess he's trying to make up a person that he wouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
And I think you might be right. It might be a docker. And the guy's like, "Oh no, everyone's out. There's no one in there." It's fine.
And I think also at this point as well, Effie has told Spade that Bridget fucked off.
Yeah.
She's gone. She sneaked out, so that's why he's trying to find her, isn't it? She's gone, and then he goes back to his office and talks to Effie, and that's when the captain comes in.
The captain comes in. Dies of gunshot wounds, I think.
Yes.
It's either been stabbed or shot. I'm not sure which, but
he's been shot a number of times. Obviously, you can't see it, but he's been shot a number of times.
Yeah, and Effie's kind of like disturbed at what she's seen, but you get the impression she's probably seen someone die before, because she's not like terribly shocked by it. She's like, "Is he?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's
yeah." That's Captain Jacoby is Walter Huston, John Huston's dad.
Oh, okay. But of course he drops the package on the floor as he dies. Spade opens the package and just immediately smiles. He's like, "Okay, we're in the money."
Yeah.
So he basically gives because he gets called away, doesn't he? So he basically says to Effie to store it at the bus station, something like that. Because I can't remember what he does to because he gives Effie instructions on what to do with it, basically, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I can't remember what he tells her to do now, though. What happens to it? I'm trying to think.
Well, he takes it to I thought it was a hotel he takes it to, and I can't remember exactly what he gives it to the guy behind the desk who puts it away, and
I thought it was a bus thing, but yeah, it may be.
He basically writes an address. Is it an address he writes down and puts it in the box? This is really bad. We really should have paid more attention to the specifics.
Yeah, it's been a long couple of weeks.
Yeah, he does. It is a bus terminal. You're right.
It is. Yeah, I thought it was. But I think because he mails it to himself, doesn't he? I think that's what he does to kind of safekeep it. He mails it to himself.
Oh, we missed the. Yes, okay. So after he goes away because Bridget calls them and she says she's in distress and she screams like something's happened.
That's right, because Effie gets a call, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she gives Sam an address. He takes the Falcons to the bus station to store it, and then he goes to the address, which turns out to be an empty lot.
Yes, that's right.
And she's in the doorway hiding, and she's all like, "Oh, woe is me," sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're full of shit, love.
Clearly. But yeah, then he heads back to his apartment, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Which is
that's where she is.
Where Bridget is, and Wilmer's there, Cairo's there, Gutman's there, everyone's there. And Gutman basically says to Spade, "Hey, I've got 10 grand right here for the bird." Spade, being Spade, immediately takes the money because that's what Spade does in the movie every time. And he says, "Hey, oh no, I forgot. He disarms Wilmer on the way in, which I really liked.
Yeah, he takes the 2 guns out of his pocket.
He takes the 2 guns and he's like, "Hey, you don't want this guy walking around with these guns. He could hurt himself." But yeah, he takes the money and he's like, if we're gonna pull this off, though, we need a fall guy, and I think Wilmer should be the fall guy.
Yeah.
Because someone's got to be blamed for Thursby and Miles, right? He's like, someone has to take the fall. I'm getting followed by the police, and if I get caught, I'm going to give everyone up. So someone has to take the fall.
Yeah. Someone has to. Justice, basically, what he's saying is justice has to be seen to be.
Oh, and the captain as well, because the captain's been killed now. So yeah. Someone has to be basically framed for this.
Yeah, someone has to take the fall, and justice has to be seen to be done.
Yeah. Gutman's like, I love Wilmer like my own son, doesn't he? He's like, I absolutely think the world of Wilmer. But they do ultimately both agree, like Gutman and Cairo are like, "Oh, okay."
And you do feel sorry for Cook because he's got those swiveling eyes as he's just like stepping back from them all.
Yeah, he's just realizing that he's totally screwed.
Yeah.
But eventually Gutman kind of tells the whole story that the night Thursby got killed, he was approached by Wilmer and Gutman. They tried to kind of reason with him, but obviously Thursby was loyal to Bridget, and eventually Wilmer shoots Thursby. Bridget had seduced the captain, and basically got him to hide the Falcon, and ultimately, Bridget was the one who instructed the captain to go to Spade, thinking that she could manipulate Spade and everything will be great.
Yeah.
Because of course that's how she works throughout the movie. She still thinks she's got one up on Spade, I think, despite Spade clearly not falling for it.
Yeah.
I guess because he does succumb to her advances several times in the movie, I guess she kind of thinks, well, actually, I can probably, probably make it work. I'll work it out later. But yeah, so
they knock out Wilmer, don't they? They
yes, yeah, they knock out Wilmer.
Disarm him, take him, knock him down, sort of thing.
Yeah. So obviously, this is why they spiked Spade, because they learned of what was going on, realized, well, actually, Spade's just kind of in the way now. We know where the Falcon is. We'll just spike Spade and no problem. Yeah. And of course, Wilmer then shot the captain, but the captain still made it to the office. He escaped and made it to the office before dying. So then, obviously, they still needed to deal with Spade, and they failed to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And Gutman then warns Spade to be careful of Bridget, as if Spade needs that warning. Like, I think Spade's well aware of what's going on there. And of course, yeah. So Spade's like, well, okay, the pieces are in place. I've got 10 grand of the 25 promised, but fine. I'll make a call. So he places a call to Effie, and he tells her to go pick up the figurine, and basically bring it to his apartment. Eventually, she turns up, and he gets the package.
I love that shot of them as well. They're waiting for the package to turn up, and you've got them all sort of sat there. You've got the kid looking worried. You've got Cairo sort of pacing.
Yeah.
Gutman's reading a book. Sam's reading the newspaper, and they're all sort of like, almost. Some of them are looking panicked. Some of them are looking sort of just nonchalantly reading. It's a great little shot.
Yeah. I love when Spade finally hands the package to Gutman. Yeah. Gutman's, like I said, it's more than money to him.
Yeah.
Like, this is his holy grail, and he is so excited. He's like tearing into the paper and then removing the cloth and just like, oh my God, it's this religious artifact to him. He's finally got it. He's so excited. But then of course he goes to check the figurine. He pulls out a knife, doesn't he? He starts cutting away the enamel. And of course, to his dismay, he discovers that underneath that enamel, it's not jewels, it is lead. It is the lead one. He basically realizes at this point, oh God, the Russian must have discovered the true value and faked it. He's made this copy.
Yeah, and Cairo, I love Cairo, immediately starts
he's like, oh, you fat piece of shit, you've ruined everything, you're useless, clearly they're only friends for the money, like they hate each other.
By you trying to get it, talk to him, he obviously realised how expensive it was, and bloody got a second one done. You bastard. It's like, you fucked us all.
Yeah, you've ruined everything. But, he does get talked around by Gutman. Gutman's like, well, look, it's not over. The quest for the Holy Grail never ends. It's like, okay, well, we're on to the next leg now. We're off to,
just like working out, how much it's going to cost to get back to wherever. I think, is it Hong Kong?
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember where it was.
And it's like, oh no, it's fine. We'll just get this, and we'll go there, and it's a few more expenses, but it's fine.
Yeah, he eventually kind of gets some composure, and he's like, okay, we'll just continue the search. It's fine. He then approaches Spade, and I'm with Spade on this one. He's like, the 10 grand, then I'll have that back. And Spade's like, well, no, it's your fault that this was the wrong bloody thing.
Yeah,
I got it for you. Not my problem that it was fake. I didn't even know what it was, But ultimately, he does agree to give the money back. He returns 9, I think.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, this is my expenses and time. And Gutman kind of agrees. He's like, okay, fair enough. And so Cairo and Gutman leave. They're going to continue their search.
Yeah.
Spade, of course, immediately phones the police.
And don't forget Wilmer. Wilmer's pissed off at this point.
Yes.
They turn round and
he's gone out the door, because they look around all shocked and they're like, where is he? And he just points at the door. And I'm like, I don't blame Wilmer for that. I would have ran too.
No,
sod that. So he phones the police, and he basically says the entire story. He says, look, this Wilmer guy, killed the captain, killed Thursby, and he says where Gutman is staying, and he says, look, you need to hurry because him and Cairo, they're about to leave town. You need to get there right now. And so he's basically set them up because he knows they're going to head back to their hotel before they leave.
Yeah.
Police will get there, arrest them. They're out of the picture. Bridget, of course, then is like, well, all's well that ends well. And Spade's like, well, actually.
Yeah.
He wants to know why she killed Miles.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, I can't believe you would say such a thing. But then obviously eventually realizes this act is not working. I need to be honest. And she basically says, look, she wanted to get rid of Thursby so that she could have the Falcon. She hired Miles to like scare him off effectively. But it all got escalated. And she eventually killed Archer to pin the crime on Thursby. So she was trying to frame Thursby to get him out of the picture in order to get the Falcon. Yeah. But of course,
and Spade says, there's no way Thursby would have got the drop on him. He would have been, he was armed. He would have been ready for him if he'd have seen Thursby approaching him.
Yeah,
he'd have shot him. He'd have shot him, first,
mm-hmm.
or at least, shots would have been fired, sort of thing. He says, but he saw you coming. He's completely,
his eyes were popping out of his fucking head the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
He clearly wasn't gonna realize what was going on.
No.
Yeah, like you said earlier, he was like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
But then of course Thursby was killed. And then basically everything kind of went to shit. So she went back to Spade at that point, realizing that she had nowhere else to turn because Gutman's here, clearly, and is going to be gunning for her next. So then she had to go back to Spade and try and, get his help.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm in love with you. I'm madly in love with you. And I would have come back to you anyway. It's not just because I was about to be murdered by Gutman and everything, and my all my plans went to shit, and I was in deep trouble. It wasn't because of that. I would have come back to you anyway because I love you so much.
Yeah.
And of course, you get Spade just coldly. He's like, well,
no, but he says he does say, I love you too, sort of thing. But
I don't know. He's like, I love you too. I'll see you in 20 years.
Yeah, he just basically he says,
you're doing time for it.
If I let you get away with it and we go off together, I know that you'll have something over me.
Yeah.
I know that when the chips are down or whatever happens, you'll just let me go. You'll point them in, the cops in my direction, and you'll bail yourself. And the other thing is, I know same thing applies to me. I know you've got thing, and at some point the relationship's just going to turn sour. And one of us is going to turn on the other. Yeah. So, there's no way I'm going to let you get away with this one because it's just not going to happen.
And she's like, how could you? And it's like, well, to be fair, you have been a manipulative piece of shit since I met you. Like, he fair's fair. You've been done now.
If it happens, I'll wait 25 years for you.
He says, I'll wait for you.
And he says, if not, and they hang you by your pretty neck,
I'll always remember you.
Say la vie.
He says, I'll always remember you.
Yeah, I'll always remember you. Yeah,
it's like I'll wait. I'll see you in 25 years, and if they hang you, I'll remember you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of goes on, and he's like, well, I always hated Miles anyway. He was a dick. And he's going to turn her in basically, because that's a line that even a detective can't cross. It's like, look, professionally, I cannot let that go.
Yeah, he was my partner, no matter what I felt about him.
Yeah,
I can't let his death go unavenged, basically.
And as you said, he knows full well she'll frame him. The earliest convenience. She's not going to go to jail. Like, she's not going to risk that. She will blame it all on him at the earliest convenience. So the only option he's really got is to get her done first.
Yeah.
So of course, she begs and begs, but of course it's not going to work. The police ultimately do get Gutman. He says,
Yeah,
like,
but basically they turn up and he says, this is where they're going to be. They're going to be trying to leave the country,
and they're going to blame you and Sam, and it'll all get, it'll all get sewn up nice and tidy.
Yeah, and he gives them the Falcon as evidence.
Yeah.
He says, "What is that?" And he says, "It's the stuff that dreams are made of."
The stuff that dreams are made of, and I love that. As she's in the lift, she doesn't even look at him or the Falcon. She knows she's got no way out of this.
Yeah,
there's no point in
and
even trying.
She's probably gonna hang for it.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, of course she does ask if the Falcon had been real and he'd got the money, would it have made any difference? And he says, money would have, wouldn't have really changed the situation. It's like, well, either way, it would have been one more thing. But ultimately, but yeah, I love that shot in the lift where she just doesn't even look at him, and he's holding that Falcon there. She doesn't even look. But yeah, so ultimately, he hands over because doesn't he also gives the money, doesn't he? The 1,000. He gives everything back to because I think he gives the 1,000 to the police as well.
Does he? I don't remember.
And the guns. And
he gives. Yes, I know he gives all the weapons and all the. Yeah, he gives that all his evidence. I can't remember whether he gives the money over, but yeah.
But yes, and that was the Maltese Falcon. It's a film that it's an interesting. It is an interesting story, and I think it's well written in its twists and turns, and I really love the character of Spade. I love how he is like I said, a know-it-all, but Bogart makes it makes him charming enough that you kind of go with it, whereas other actors I think would have made him a bit too smug.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think a lot of this movie is in the performances and it's in the direction. The lighting in this movie,
amazing.
Some shots are incredible. They make every use of hats and down lighting.
Yeah,
it looks incredible.
Huston filmed it all in sequence.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was all filmed in sequence. Huh. He had everything storyboarded. He was like meticulous about the way he wanted it shot. And there's a 7-minute single shot in this movie that's just amazing. It's so good. Yeah. And this is his first movie. It's
an incredible first film. Really impressive.
And I think the original, I can't remember what is the guy was name. I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere. The guy that originally he wanted for the role turned him down because he just didn't want to go with a first-time director.
Oh, really?
George Raft was the guy was originally approached, and he said, "No, I don't want to go with a first-time director." So, and Bogart was like, "Yeah, no, fine." He read the script and he looked at what he proposed to do, and he said, "Yeah, no, I'll do it. I'm more than happy to." And they became like lifelong friends after that.
Yeah,
almost. I think everybody involved with this, they all sort of became friends, because of this, and they for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So it kind of, it was kind of one of those moments for them all. It was the studio itself didn't think much of this movie. They just thought it was going to be a cheap.
Happens so often with those it happens so often with these classic films. More often than not, it's like it's just a detective movie. It's just a it's just a horror film. It's just a thing, and then it's like, oh god, actually, no.
It was complete success.
Yeah,
and I think that they wanted to do a sequel, but it never sort of materialized. Really, it never sort of quite made it through. But Dashiell Hammett, the writer, he was actually a Pinkerton agent. And a lot of the characters from the book are all based on real people. Like the Greenstreet's character was based on this English sort of detective and adventurer who was involved in some really fucking shady dealings. I think, and at least never proved, but they think he was also a murderer.
Right.
So he was sort of based on that, and there was other things. The Spade character, he said, has actually no original sort of person, but what he said was that's how all of the agents saw themselves. That's who they wanted to be. Like in their best moments, that's who they thought they were. Basically, was the Sam Spade character, even though they clearly weren't. You know, it's sort of the ideal. He was for Hammett. He was the ideal sort of detective. You know, how they all thought a detective should be.
Yeah,
and it's clearly the sort of the template for all of those. You know, all the ones that.
God, yeah.
You know, and I think if somebody had seen a lot of detective movies but hadn't seen these sort of classics, and they watched them, you'd probably think it was all cliched. But at this point, they're not cliched. They're all sort of original, you know, original lighting, the original sort of, you know, noir stuff. This is where it all comes from.
Yeah.
And it's a beautifully made movie that you know, it's just the template for that hard-boiled detective genre, really.
Yeah. It's incredible, and to think that, you know, I mean, Humphrey Bogart going, I think he's pretty much like went straight from the Maltese Falcon to Casablanca, right? It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he had a
like, it's like that's a hell of a 2 movies you did there year on year, you know. Damned impressive.
He just had this amazing sort of run at that point of just, and you know, he was the biggest star.
He was,
at that point, you know, when you get to Casablanca and stuff, he's absolutely, you know, made.
Yeah.
And I love one of the things I like about in the book, the actual opening of the book. I was going to read it out, but I'll probably mess it up.
Go for it. I think it's quoted at the. Is this the bit that's at the start of the movie as well? They've got the text at the start of the movie, haven't they?
No, it's the way so the book opens with the description of Sam.
Oh, okay.
So the description of Sam is, he says, Sam Spade's jaw was long and bony, his chin a jutting V under a more flexible V of his mouth. His nostrils curved back to make another smaller V. His yellow eyes were horizontal. The V motif was picked up again by his thickish brows raising outwards from twin creases above a hooked nose, and a pale brown hair drew down from high flat temples in a point on his forehead. He looked rather pleasantly like a blonde Satan.
That's a great line.
And apparently later on somebody pointed out that basically describes oh, for fuck's sake. Oh no, my brain.
Bogart?
Dr. Phibes.
Oh, it kind of does. Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah.
Why can't I remember his name?
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, right? Fuck for that.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, my fucking brain. It describes Vincent Price perfectly. Unfortunately, he wasn't sort of properly established at this point.
No.
So he couldn't have played him, but that describes Vincent Price perfectly.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could see Vincent Price in this role, but
yeah. Well,
he does look the part, though. You're right.
It would be different, wouldn't it?
It would.
Sort of, I guess a more English sounding sort of.
I think that you can't help but think that Price doing it would have come across sinister.
Yeah,
it's like he's got that way of line delivery. This just always sounds really sinister, even when he's playing. You know what I mean? Like he's just got that way about him. I don't know whether that's just because, you know, obviously I've watched a lot of his horror films. But
he was in an awful lot of movies where he's not. I mean,
no, actually, I know. I mean, and even in films like House of Wax, where initially he is a lovely man.
Yeah.
Who's just very passionate about his wax figures. Even then, you're like, oh, there's something about Vincent Price. You're like instantly like, oh, there's something evil about
Last Man on Earth, he's not remotely sinister, I don't think.
No. Well, obviously not in that. He's fighting off the vampires. Yeah. That's an interesting one. At some point, we should do one of those. One of the Last Man on Earth films.
I think probably the
Omega Man, probably.
That version, maybe not certainly not the 90s one or the
or certainly not the Will Smith one. No,
which was fucking awful.
Yeah, the Last Man on Earth is an interesting one. The Vincent Price one, because it's just full on vampires in that one.
Yeah.
And obviously Omega Man, it's more like of a weird cult thing.
You didn't see, aren't they, in the Omega Man? And I really like the Omega Man.
Oh, actually. I love it. I love the you know, the aesthetic of that movie. You know, where he's living in that big apartment, and then you've got the.
Isn't he living in the White House?
Is it? No, it's just a big. Is it the White House? I thought it was just a fancy apartment. It might be the White House. But then you've obviously got the mutants of rejected technology, haven't they? They're like, technology killed us, and you know, it was the bomb, and you know, the scripture says not to use technology, so they're using like trebuchets, like homemade trebuchets, to like launch things into his apartment. It's like, well, technically trebuchets are technology, dude. You know, just saying. But no, great movies. Anyway, we're getting off topic, but highly recommend the Maltese Falcon. Great movie. It is a classic for a reason, and it definitely deserves all the accolades it gets, for sure.
Yeah.
And as you said, it goes into that long line of movies. Blade Runner, a whole bunch of movies that are just like, at the time they're like, yeah, it's just a sci-fi movie. Don't really see that.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good, if you've never seen that sort of the gangster sort
noir,
of active noir genre, this is a really good entry point for it. It's
it's one of the most iconic, and as you said, it kind of set the standard for a lot of them. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yes, anyway, we will be back next week with our usual review fare. Hopefully I would have seen 2 movies in the cinema by then, which is unheard of for me. So yeah, looking forward to it. But until then, stay safe, take care, and we will catch you next time.